welcome to another episode of Yarn to Table. My name is Celeste and this is a show about my knitting life. If this is your very first time watching me, welcome. I hope you see something that you like and that you will hit the subscribe button so you can join me again. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Celeste Foal if you would like to see up-to-date photos on the knitting I'm working on and little pieces of my life as well. And on Ravelry we have a group for the podcast, which you can find linked in the doobly-doo below. You can also find it just by searching for Yarn to Table on Ravelry under the Groups tab. And that's where you're going to want to go to participate in giveaways and knit-alongs and fun stuff like that. We do have a new knit-along starting in January. It's the Fiber Quest KAL. And you can check the episode 2 previous to this for more details on that. I am going to film a separate short video describing that KAL, as well as a short one for the first segment, which is the Land of Camelids. I was not able to get around to doing that just yet, so I believe I will have time to make that happen after the Christmas holiday and hopefully have that up soon before the knit along officially kicks off. But the Land of Camelids will take 2 months, so no rush there. And yeah, I'm gonna get going on that. I just want to make sure that I get, I kind of set up everything that I want to say about camelids and what different camelid fiber is good for, so that I can make that a really valuable video. So I kind of have to prep for it, and I haven't made time for that yet. So that'll be coming. Also coming up on Saturday, December 30th at 2 p.m. Yep. That's going to be my first podiversary / year in review celebration and live stream. So at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday the 30th, I hope you will join me here on my channel page on YouTube. You will see a live video show up and you can watch that live, comment along, participate in a live giveaway that we will have, and celebrate and have a lot of fun. Celebrate a year of Yarn to Table and a year in all of our knitting lives, and talk about what we've got planned for the next year. So that should be really fun. Okay, sorry if I keep scratching my nose. I think I have little bits of fiber coming off my hat there. So now that all of the administrative stuff is out of the way, you know what, I always say this. I always say let's hop in, and then I stop and I tell you what tea I'm drinking. So let me talk about the tea, then we'll jump straight in. The tea today is from my David's Tea. Oh my gosh, my nose is itching so badly. I'm sorry. Hang on. Hang on. Yeah, real professional. So the tea I'm drinking today is from my David's Tea Advent Calendar. This is called Sleigh Ride, and it's a nice herbal mix of fruits and spices, including a little bit of cinnamon, and it is made pink with some dried beetroot. So it has a nice earthy, sweet, little bit of sour, little bit of spice kind of flavor going on. And very good for Christmas. If you can't tell, I'm very much in the Christmas mood over here. We are about a week away from Christmas as I record this, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Obviously, I have my hat going on. This is a design I did and talked about a few weeks ago. If you want to know more, you can find the project page, and that'll link you to the proper episode where I talk about it in the blogs tab on my project page on Ravelry. But I did this out of Tough Puff doubled on size 19 needles, and I really love it. And I am wearing my big red sweater, which you can also find a project page for on Ravelry, and that'll link you to the episode where I talk about this more in detail. You can see full body shots of it. But this is the Groovy Sweater Dress by Winlan Chia, and I also did this out of Tough Puff, the same color. This was my leftovers. I did it on size 19 needles, but it, as you can probably see, is not doubled, so it has a bit of a looser gauge. Yeah, and it's my crazy chunky Christmas sweater, which looks even crazier when I wear it with my crazy Santa hat. Because that's how we do Christmas here at Common Getter. So let's see. Talked about the KALs, talked about what I'm wearing, talked about the tea. Okay, so I have 3 finished objects for you today. I got 3 works in progress, and I have 3 fun little pieces of stash enhancement. So good things come in threes, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun today. Let's jump in to the finished objects. Just after I finished recording last week, I finished my Christmas socks, and they have been sitting, waiting to be shown off on the podcast for about 2 weeks. So I am really excited to show them to you and super excited to start wearing them because I kept them nice and fresh to show you guys. So these, you may recognize the yarn as it is quite in demand. This is Jinx yarn in her gingerbread house colorway, and let's see here. I have it on the strong sock base, and then my contrasting is Dogwood Heather Knit Pick Stroll. So this is a very in-demand hand-dyed self-striping colorway that I managed luckily to get my hands on back in October, I think it was, and I knit these up. I absolutely love them. You can see I am a make all of the stripes match exactly type person. That is how I roll, and I just think they're so perfect and beautiful. I absolutely love them. So these are just my typical vanilla sock. Twisted rib. I've been doing the longer cuff lately. I think I like it. Been doing the fish lips kiss heel and a regular grafted toe. And there's not a ton else to say about them except just how incredibly beautiful the yarn is. You know, Jinx self-striping yarn is very in demand, and it is completely worth all of the hype. It is just spectacularly beautiful. I just did another pair out of her Jack and Sally socks in October that I managed to score during the same sale. And I have a skein of the Christmas lights still in my stash that I believe will get some love next year. So I have just been absolutely loving Laura's yarn lately. It is just spectacularly beautiful. And I love pink, and I just love these. So I can't wait to wear those. Don't have a ton more to say about them, but Christmas socks, always good, and I'm happy to have them done well before Christmas so that I can show you guys, and now I can start wearing them. My next work in progress is my bobble hat, which is a pattern by Donna Smith, and I used the yarn she called for, which is Jamieson's of Shetland Heather, which is a nice Aran weight yarn, very sheepy and natural, very good for color work. I used all grayscale colors, as you can see. The exact names of the colors can be found in my show notes, which are posted for every episode in the Ravelry group, again linked down in the doobly-doo. But you know, basically just all grays and blacks and whites. I thought it would be really cute to do a neutral bobble hat, and I do love it. I had completed most of this by the time I showed it to you on the last episode, and then I just sat down and knit the crown really quick. And you know, I blocked it kind of flat, which is why it's sort of got this kind of thing going on. Ideally, I would block it on like a hat, like a head, fake head, whatever those things are, or something round, but I don't really have anything like that because I don't knit a ton of hats. So yeah, the shape is a little wonky. I'm thinking I'm gonna maybe reblock it or something. It's also quite large for my head. I got gauge and everything, but it's just a little bit bigger on me than I feel like it looks like it is in the photos. So I don't know, maybe I have a smaller head. Not sure. But I love it. It's super cute, and it's super warm. and it's just fun. And I think that the grayscale kind of balances out how kind of loud, I guess, the pattern is, and makes it just a little bit more subtle, which makes it more wearable for me. So I'm very happy with my color choice, and I love just the depth of color in all of the heathers in this yarn. Just really, really lovely yarn. Really enjoyed working with that. So I finished that a little while ago as well. And my next FO is something that I actually finished yesterday. So I don't think I had started these at all. Had I? Hang on, I got my show notes from last week right here. Yeah, I had not started these at all last week. So you will have only seen them if you've been watching Vlogmas, which, by the way, you can check out if you want to see more from my my day-to-day life, what I'm getting up to, knitting-wise and holiday-wise, and all of that kind of stuff. But I have been wanting to make big chunky stockings for myself and my husband Ryan for a long time. And this year I decided it was going to happen, and I designed them myself, and the design process was challenging at times. It was an interesting project because, and I talked about this a little bit on Vlogmas, but I feel like designing something is really a lot different than just sitting down and knitting someone else's pattern for fun. There's a lot more ripping back, there's a lot more thought that goes into it, a lot more problem solving, but beyond that, it's also somewhat emotionally taxing because sometimes you have to make decisions and they're really difficult and you're not sure if you're making the right decision. And sometimes you kind of make one decision and then you write back and you make a different decision, and it's a lot. So these stockings took me, I think, about 10 days in all to make, although I obviously didn't knit on them every single day. I think I spent a couple long sessions on them over the course of 10 days. I have 2 stockings here. They are different designs, and all in all, I think I knit 3 different heels to figure out the heel. I think I knit 3 different foot and toe portions to figure out how I wanted to do the foot and the toe. And I knit a couple cuffs for one of them. And, you know, it all knit up very fast because I'm doing them super chunky. But it was, yeah, it was a bit of a process. And I really, really enjoyed having that challenge. I didn't, you know, I thought that I would just whip them up really, really fast because they were just going to be a big chunky project like this hat. And, you know, I mean, I designed this hat too, but it's pretty simple. So I whipped it up in like an hour, not even. The stocking's a little bit more complicated, which you will see. So it was a challenge and I really enjoyed it. And it's making me feel like I would like to make more time to flex that design muscle. It really needs dedicated set aside time that is sort of different from just your knitting time, because it's not always a relaxing wind down type thing. It's not a great thing for multitasking. You can't really work on a design while carrying on a conversation with a friend, you know, necessarily. You can, I guess, if you're in like a big stockinette portion of it, but it sort of requires its own dedicated time, and that's something that I would like to prioritize more. I'm not sure how much it's going to get prioritized in the new year because this is going to be a big year for me with school, and, you know, not everything can be a priority. School has to be my priority. Work has to be my priority. My family, those are all going to come first. But it's definitely something I want to do more of eventually. So possibly in the new year and possibly once I graduate. We'll see. But I'm going to stop prattling on and I'm going to show you the stockings now. I'm going to show them to you one by one because they're pretty big. This is the first guy. Oh, don't you just love it? This one's mine. Ryan got to claim the one that he liked the best, so I'll show you his in a minute. And this guy has this big cuff that folds over, and it has rib with these huge baubles in it. And then the body of the stocking is reverse stockinette with this nice, beautiful cable down the front. And then I did the heel out of stockinette and the toe as well to contrast with the reverse stockinette. Now, what's fun is that on this stocking, which is Ryan's, the cable is on the cuff instead of the body, and the baubles are on the body instead of the cuff, and the background is stockinette with reverse stockinette heel and toe, whereas here it's reverse stockinette body with stockinette heel and toe. So they're very different, and yet they're sort of mirrored versions of each other, and I just think they go together so beautifully. So I'll show you a bit more of what's going on with this one. This one, you will probably have noticed that the cuff was knitted around because that's how you get that cable going horizontally. So I knit the cuff in the round, and then I actually picked up from the inside of the cuff to do the rest of the body. Threw those baubles on it. I think they have that look of like 3 buttons down the front of a gingerbread man, which is what I had in mind. And this cuff does not fold in and out. It's just, you know, this just goes up a little bit into it where I picked up about here, if that makes sense. So this one's Ryan's, this one's mine, and I just love them. I did them with the same Tough Puff, doubled on size 19 needles, so that's the same gauge as the Santa hats that I made for Ryan and I. And they're ridiculous, over the top, and yet I think that they look really, really chic and classy at the same time because they're solid white, and I'll insert a photo of them hanging on our white fireplace, but they are in our front room, which is all white and touches of gold. And I just think that they have that look because they're monochrome. You can go kind of over the top with the baubles and everything and the big chunky gauge, and they still just have this like very minimalist, just lovely classic aesthetic to them that I absolutely love. So these evolved a lot in my mind. This was pretty much exactly how I imagined it. But the second one, initially I wanted the cuff to have stockinette, a row of stockinette at the top and the bottom, to have those like V's going around. And I tried it once and it was a little wider and it was too wide. I undid that. And then I tried it like this. And then I was thinking, I really want the V's, so I came up with a way to do it where it was narrower and it still had them. And I was looking at that, and it was cute, but the cable really popped out more on this one. So I kept this one. So that was a little different than I expected. And then the body of it was initially going to be kind of a bobbly all over look, which I was going to get by doing the raspberry stitch, which isn't the same thing as baubles, but it creates a kind of all over bobbly look. But it turned out it just really wasn't working with this gauge. So then I had the idea of the 3 baubles down the middle that I thought would be really cute. And I actually thought that on the stockinette would go better with this cuff, and it would go better with the other stocking. And I just think it worked out so perfectly. I'm really, really, really glad I made that choice. So they evolved in terms of my initial kind of sketch in my mind, was not ultimately exactly how they turned out, at least this one anyway. And yet they are exactly what I pictured in terms of just the overall look of them. They are the gauge that I pictured and the general size that I pictured, and they just have this quality about them that is everything I was hoping for and everything I could have asked for. And I just felt so incredibly happy and accomplished when I finished them yesterday. So I'm absolutely thrilled. I would love to know what you guys think of them. And I may write up a pattern for them at some point, but I would want it to be a pattern that was easy to follow, and some of the things are a little bit tricky to figure out how to explain. So it's not as simple as just writing up a document in like a couple minutes. Like, I would want it to be good. So that's something that's going to very much depend on whether I have time to make that happen. But yeah, I'm thinking about it. So we'll see how that goes. But I just absolutely love them. I love them. Yes, so that is that for FOs. And let's move on to WIPs. The first WIP I want to share with you is my sweater progress. So this is living in my handmade project bag that I used recycled bedding for. It's a linen duvet on the outside and a flat top sheet on the inside. And this is the lovely and beautiful Ebba by Diana Walla, which is going to look like this. Except I am making it black and white and red. And I am basically through, I think I'm almost through, or I just finished the waist shaping. And I am fixing to set up the side steeks where the sleeves are going to go. So I am knitting this from the bottom up. It's been a lot of stockinette lately with some waist shaping to kind of keep things a little interesting. Ribbing on the bottom, tubular cast on, which was not in the pattern, that's just what I did. And here you can see this little stitch marker, this pink ball, is where you saw it last. So that's the progress I've made since then. And yeah, there's not a ton to say about that, but I am excited to get to the stranded work, I tell you, and I'm excited to wear this puppy. I am making it out of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes non-superwash sport weight. There's about a zillion versions of Wool of the Andes, which I quite like for this. I got all the yarn for the sweater for like $20, so you kind of can't beat that price-wise. And it's a nice yarn to work with. I don't have any complaints. You know, it doesn't really have like a depth of color, but I wasn't really looking for that for this project. I really wanted that stark look. So it's really perfect. And I'm really excited to get to the fun part. This has been not as huge of a priority as I would like it to be, because I really wanted to get the stockings done for Christmas. I have my Advent socks, which I'll show you, which of course I want to knit on every day. So because of that, it has been a priority, but not by any means like a monogamous thing. But I'm quite pleased with the amount of progress I've managed to make on it. I mean, in 2 weeks to kind of do that much, I think is reasonable given the other projects I've been working on. So, yeah, I'm not sure I will be finishing this before the end of the year. It really depends on my other stuff. But, I feel like it's finally moving, and it was kind of on the back burner for a while, so it feels good to be moving on it. I'm excited to have that sweater. I think I'm kind of turning into a product knitter, which is super weird because I was a process knitter for almost 20 years. It feels very strange. I was such a process knitter that I barely have any products to show for like most of my knitting career because I would always give things away, or I would just be like practicing a new technique on like random swatches that I didn't even save. I would start projects and never finish them. Like, I really have so little to show for all of my knitting efforts. I would knit things for myself that I would keep, but then I would get rid of them later because I just didn't like them that much. And lately, I've been, you know, I'm still into the process, obviously, and I still have projects that I make that are more about the process, but lately I have a lot of projects that I make that are just for the product, or primarily, or like I'm getting so much more into garment knitting, and believe me, it's not because I like doing miles and miles of stockinette on like a giant garment. Like, it's fine, but that's every garment I've made has basically been a product knit. And I've made 7 adult size garments in the last year, which is like my first year of real garment knitting. Like, I'd only done little things before that were like, I think all of them were sleeveless. So it's, yeah, it's interesting to see that transformation, but I'm really excited to have that sweater. So it should be fun. Okay, I mentioned my Advent socks. I'll show you how those are coming along. Now, I have an Advent calendar that I get a mini skein, a 20-gram mini skein out of every day from Molly of A Homespun House. Well, it's from A Homespun House, which is, yeah, you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I've been knitting on concurrent Advent socks, woo, with a stripe for each day. And this is how they're coming. So I did the cuffs on the 1st, and I did a stripe for every day. I did the heels on the 13th day, and the toes are going to be on the 24th. And I'll show you one so I can kind of talk more about the colors in here. So I'm choosing the colors randomly. You know, I'm adding each stripe as it comes up in the Advent calendar. And that has been kind of an exercise in trying to not be super controlling. And it's been interesting. You know, you can see at the beginning, like, these 2 stripes really fade together. And some of these stripes, like these 2, are not as different as they might be. But overall, the longer the sock gets, the more colors it has, the more I feel like you can see it holistically and really see that like just scrappy, stripy effect, rather than kind of getting bogged down in whether like each individual stripe is paired next to the perfect stripe to be next to. Some of these colors are really, really stunning. My favorite is this sort of grayish one here that has these amazing pops of kind of a coppery color and navy in there, and it's like a steel gray green color. It is really pretty. I like that one a lot. And this pink stellina one is really cute too when that one came out. And I was holding it up for the video, for the vlog, and it was just sparkling as I tilted it back and forth, just pink and sparkly. It was like such a little princess mini skein. So some of them have stellina, some don't. They're all on different bases. Yeah, some of them are on a 2-ply base and some are on a 4-ply. So I think she's got 3 different bases in there that she's going between. And they mostly feel like merino. I don't think any of the bases are BFL, but I could be wrong. And then the other interesting thing here is for the Fish Lips Kiss heel, you might notice this is a little pointy. So I was having a drink and a sit and knit with a new knitting friend, which you will have seen on Vlogmas. And she was knitting socks with a Fish Lips Kiss heel. So we were kind of talking about the heel, and I told her, you know, I don't think it fits me perfectly, but it fits me better than a heel flap and gusset usually does because I have a really narrow heel. And then she said, you know, if it doesn't fit you perfectly, why don't you try experimenting with how many stitches you leave in the middle rather than just leaving 1/3 of them. And, you know, I thought, yeah, that's interesting. So normally I leave 8 stitches in the center and 10 on either side because I have 28 stitches for one side of the foot. Which, you know, of course I could leave 10 stitches in the center and 9 on either side, which would be slightly closer to an exact 3, 3, and 3 split, but what I usually do is leave 8 in the center. I just have started doing that. So I thought, well, why don't I try leaving 6 in the center? And then I thought, if I really want to experiment, I should do something more dramatic. Let me just leave 4. So on this, I have 4 in the center and 12 on either side. And it makes it quite pointy. It's going to make it have more depth and get narrower toward the back, which I think might fit my foot better. It might not, and if it doesn't, it's not a big deal. But it's a nice little experimentation that I figured I would do since I was working on a pair of socks right now anyway. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. I will try to remember to report back on whether I like the fit better. Not that it's super relevant because everyone's different, so the fact that I might like it or not like it doesn't mean you will or won't. It's more, you know, for your application, it's more just, hey, consider whether you can modify the Fish Lips Kiss heel to fit your foot better. That's something you might want to do. So I'll try to remember to report back just out of interest, but it really shouldn't change whether or not you want to do it. And I think that's pretty much all there is to say about these puppies. I'm going to have a ton of ends to weave in. I saw Andy of 10,000 Stitches has already started weaving in her ends on her Advent socks because she is on the ball, but I'm kind of dreading it. So speaking of tons of ends to weave in, my final whip is my Cozy Memories blanket. And that has been getting a little bit of love because I want to incorporate all of my Advent skeins into it. So if you don't know, the way I do my Cozy Memories blanket is I like every square to actually represent a true memory, a true project that I've worked on. And so because of the Advent socks, I thought I would do a square for each of the skeins because they're 20 grams and I'm only doing a stripe, so I have plenty of leftovers. So I have started, I've done 9 of them so far, and I have opened 17, I've knit 16 onto the socks already, and I'm going to have 24 in total. So I've only put 9 on here so far, but here they are. Well, first of all, I did the gingerbread house square, which is new since you've last seen this. And then these 5 are the first 5 of the Advent sock. And then, yeah, and then it comes down here for the next row. And you have these 5. Wait, 5? 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I guess I've knit 10 on here. I thought I had only knit 9. Yeah, here we go. So this one here, you can see is that color that I said I thought was my favorite of all of them so far. It looks very nice in garter as well. And all of these are one of a kind, so unfortunately you cannot order a whole skein of them from a homespun house, but you know, all of her regular colors are gorgeous as well. I also thought this was interesting, just based on the timing, because I'm doing them in order. I do all of my squares in order of, you know, the projects and various logical things. I don't just look for what colors look good next to each other. So this just happened to be on top of this, which I thought was quite interesting. This is the Homespun House Harry Potter yarn that I knit my Hermione's Everyday Socks out of, my Hermione's Christmas Day socks, as I call them. And so that's a homespun house, and this is a homespun house, and they both involve red and green, but they're both so different because this one's so much more saturated. And I just thought that was interesting. And I also think it's interesting, this color, when you see it on the sock, let me show you the sock, it's got a lot of pooling, and it really wasn't my favorite stripe. See, it's this stripe here. So there you can see like the green is all pooling together here, and the reds are kind of pooling together. But in the square, because it's a different, you know, it's like knitted flat and mitered, it's just a totally different thing than going around and around in stockinette, and it breaks through the pooling. So I just thought that was really interesting to see it look so different from the stripe to the square. So yeah, having fun knitting on this a little bit. I don't need to get all of these done by any particular date or anything. I don't have this as like a gotta get it done before Christmas. It's just been taking up some of my mindless TV knitting time, and yeah, it's a nice comforting thing to work on, and I enjoy it. This whole thing is about 15 squares. Yeah, it's exactly 15 squares wide, and each of them is about 3 inches, I think. And when I've incorporated all of the advents on, it will be 5 rows deep in some places and 6 in others. And I think it's going to be at least a reasonable lap blanket once it gets to be twice that size, when it's 10 deep and 15 wide. So I'm expecting, I've been working on this for a year, so I'm expecting maybe after another year it'll be either finished or able to be kind of used and still added to occasionally. We'll see how I feel about that when the time comes, but it's been coming together. It's a really nice thing to have going because you can just knit on it here and there when you sort of want something different, but you don't want to cast on a whole new project. So now that you've seen my whips, let's talk a little bit about what's on the horizon, which will take us into stash enhancement. So, the first thing is I have been thinking about knitting another Christmas ornament this year, and I wanted it to be something that kind of felt like it encompassed something that happened this year. So obviously Fiona the hippo is a big thing in our lives this year. And I thought it would be really cute to knit a little Fiona for the tree. So I found a small hippo stuffy pattern, which is Hild the Hippo by Doreen Blask. And I thought it would be really, really cute to do it out of my Jamieson's Shetland Spendrift in the colorway Fog, which is this beautiful color that reads gray, but it has little bits of pink and mint in it. And I thought that would be perfect for Fiona because she's gray, but she has lots of little pink places on her, like on her ears and stuff. And it's just such a beautiful color, and I wanted something really special for the Fiona ornament. So because I love the color so much, I ordered more of it than I needed when I ordered it for the underwing mitts that I want to do eventually. So I have plenty to use on the ornament as well. and hopefully I will be whipping that up sometime soon. And then the next thing, I mentioned the Sunset Highway to you in the past. It was quite generously gifted to me during Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted by a lovely viewer of the podcast. And I was saying how I might want to do it out of Gilmore Girls Club yarn that comes from Woolberry, and I have to see the yarn to make that decision. Well, that yarn has arrived, and I am happy to report that I will be incorporating both the Shaw Club and the Sock Club into my plans for that sweater. So I want to show you that yarn now as we move into stash enhancement, and I'll let you know how I'm planning on incorporating it into the Sunset Highway. So it goes without saying that if you are subscribed to the Woolberry Fiber Co. Gilmore Girls Club and you somehow have not seen your yarn yet, although I believe everyone should have received it by now, you want to skip ahead a minute if you want to stay surprised. Okay, so first the sock set. And she said that this was going to be inspired by Lorelei's love of snow, and she named it It's Magical. And it looks like this. Beautiful sort of wine color with dark speckles and this kind of Christmassy mini skein. And then the Shaw set, and that is on her simple sock, which is a 75-25. The Shaw set is on Berry Merino, which is a 100% merino base, and it's a 2-ply. And this came with 2 skeins to make a shawl, and she said this would be inspired by the Bracebridge Dinner episode, and it is called Bjork Snow Girl, and it is stunning. Very different from the Sock Club, and yet they look quite nice together, I think. So my plan is this can be the body of the Sunset Highway, and then I will do the color work using this along with 2 other colors that are also Gilmore Girls inspired, that also just in a colorway work with this. So it's just going to be really cool. It's going to be my next Gilmore Girls project that I will knit on while I record to Return to Stars Hollow. So it's going to be really special, and I'm going to get it all ready to start up on when we start recording again after the new year. So we're having our last recording session tomorrow before we're going to take time off for the holidays and for my residency. And then when we come back, I want to get started on this new project. So, body of the sweater, this will be one of the color work colors. The other 2 will be the Pop-Tart Dilemma by Homespun House, which I have about half a skein left of after my Pop-Tarts and coffee socks, which is plenty. And that, of course, is a nice pink color that's going to go well with this in contrast. And then my last color I need to order, but I would like to get I Smell Snow by Stress Knits, which is a very pale pink color that is going to go really well with these. And of course, we're going to have a lot of depth of different tones from pale to medium to dark with this one, which will all contrast really well for the color work and show up. And I just think it's going to be absolutely perfect. So I'm very excited about that. And then the next bit of stash enhancement that I have to show you is actually a prize that I won. So I mentioned last week when I showed you what I had won from Tommy's Deep Dark Night KAL, that in October I entered a couple knit-alongs, and I actually won 2, which was crazy because I've never won before. The other one was the Big Scary KAL that Caitlin of Wool Jewel was hosting, and this was where you knit something that scared you. I entered my Marled Magic because, much like with the Advent socks, kind of knitting something in an improvised way with a bunch of different colors is super outside of my comfort zone. So that was scary for me. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, I'm doing something similar again right now with the Advent socks. So I think I definitely got something out of that experience. And in addition to that, I got a prize. So one of the things it came with was these really, really beautiful stitch markers, which unfortunately I forgot to bring up to show you because they're downstairs in my knitting pouch, because I didn't want to save them and keep them fresh. I just wanted to knit with them immediately. So you'll probably see them on a project at some point in the future. They're really, really cute, gorgeous. But the other thing was this skein of Geektastic Fibers yarn. And here's what's so great about this. It is Hocus Pocus inspired, which you can probably see the inspiration. The red, the purple, and the green are, of course, the signature colors that the Sanderson sisters wear in Hocus Pocus. So this is going to be some kind of really awesome Halloween project, probably saved for next year for Halloween. The colorway is called Amok Amok Amok. Love it. Love it. Love it so much. So this yarn is absolutely gorgeous, and I could not love the inspiration more. And I am just so thrilled to have won it. So thank you, Caitlin, for hosting such a cool KAL. And I'm so happy with my prize. And the final piece of stash enhancement is not for me. Speaking of prizes, it is a couple prizes for you guys. So a little while ago, I went to a knit night at one of my local yarn stores, which you can check out in one of my Vlogmas episodes. It's labeled LYS Knit Night. I forget what day it is, but the yarn store I went to is this guy, Fabergé Knits and Bolts. They are knits and bolts because they also have a lot of fabric, so bolts. They're a sewing shop as well. So I went to knit night there, and I grabbed some prizes for the FiberQuest KAL. So the FiberQuest KAL is, of course, our year-long knit-along coming up, where we're going to try out all different types of fiber. And I thought it would be really cool if the prizes were skeins of yarn that contained the fiber from that land of fiber that you entered your project from. So I went looking for the first couple months, the camelids and the goats. I did not find what I wanted to find for goats, but I did find something for the land of silk, which is later on in the year. And I did find something for camelids, which is our first land that we're going to discover. So the very first prize for the FiberQuest KAL is going to be this absolutely stunning 100% alpaca skein. Honestly, this is so freaking soft and so beautiful. You can see the gorgeous various colors in there. Extremely subtle, but extremely gorgeous. So this is Mirasol Pacu Pura, and it is pure extra fine Peruvian alpaca. This is 100% alpaca. It's 100 grams and 300 meters. So it's about a sport weight. They suggest your gauge is 22 to 24 stitches per 4 inches on 3.25 to 3.75 millimeter needles, which is a US 3 to a US 5. So that'll give you an idea of it. I believe that's sport weight. And the shade is called Hazy Skies. And what's so cool about this, you can see the peaches and the grays and the whites. This is an undyed colorway. They get this beautiful marled effect by taking various shades of naturally grown alpaca, peach and cream and gray, and then marling them together into this yarn. No dye involved. Just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And I'm so jealous of whoever's going to win this. I'm probably going to get some for myself just as soon as I figure out what I want to make out of it. But so great. And my new friend, Melissa, who works at the store, she told me that this can knit up sometimes in a bit of a micro stripe. So that is interesting. I will be very curious to see what the winner makes out of this and how it looks. So that's the first prize. The next prize that I picked up, this will be for later in the year for the Land of Silk, is some Noro, which is a very beautiful, this is Silk Garden by Noro, and it's just a very beautiful kind of art yarn. The color is $2.79, and this is 45% silk, 45% mohair, and 10% wool. So it has a nice little shine to it. It's got a really interesting look to it. And this is a 50 gram, 100 meter skein. So a little chunkier. They recommend US size 7 to 8 needles. It doesn't say what that is in millimeters, but that's a pretty big needle. And this would make a really special little accessory. A hat would be gorgeous out of this. Maybe some cute little mitts or something nice for the home. So both of those will be going to lucky viewers in the future if you want to participate in our really fun knit along that we have coming up. So I hope to see you there. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on chit chat because, as I said, I am doing Vlogmas, so there is plenty of extra content and peeks into my life if you want to see what's going on there. But I did want to leave you with a thought, and that is about knitting and woolly things and the comfort that they bring us, not just their creation, but wearing them and being warm. So I was talking with one of my bosses at work. He is the executive creative director at the ad agency where I work, so he's over all of the creative department. And he is a huge fan of Iceland. He's a photographer and he goes to Iceland every year. He's been doing it for like, I think 3 or 4 years now. He's met a lot of people there and he's just absolutely in love with Iceland. And yes, I'm super jealous. And yes, when I finally plan my trip to Iceland, I will be hitting him up for all the information. So I got the hookup, pretty glad about that. I've been wanting to go to Iceland since before I ever met him or he ever went. Like, it's just been a dream. So when I see him go to Iceland every single year, I just live vicariously through his incredible photos. And I feel lucky that he's going to be able to give me all the information when I'm finally ready to make that happen. But that's kind of an aside. So the point is that he has a lot of friends over in Iceland now, and one of them told him that her mother wanted to knit him a traditional stranded Icelandic yoked sweater out of, 100% rustic natural wool, and just in that beautiful traditional Icelandic style. And he was like, cool, super excited about it, but at the same time he was like, that's a huge gift, like this probably won't happen. So he really wasn't expecting it to come, and then 6 months later, which was a few weeks ago now, it shows up and it's stunning. I still haven't seen it in person. I've only seen a photo of it on his Instagram, but it's all in like grayscale like this. But with the very complex, beautiful stranded yoke. And, it fits him perfectly. It's beautiful. It's been handmade by this person and sent across the ocean. And so he was telling me about it, and we were just talking about like what a lovely and generous gift that is. And he was saying, it's so incredibly warm. And this year I have finally realized that it's important to me to be comfortable, and so much of that is being warm. He's sort of a smaller person, he's thin, and we live in a cold part of the country, and he was saying like, he's in his 40s now, and he has always been cold, just always cold. And he shouldn't have to be. And he's finally thinking, it is time now. I'm going to prioritize my comfort, and I'm going to wear, you know, sweaters like this. I'm going to dress in layers. I'm going to get out the wool socks and do what it takes to stay warm. And I think there are so many people in the modern world now who have fallen completely out of touch with fiber, with all of the skills and the knowledge that our ancestors accumulated. In the modern world, we want things fast and we want them cheap, and we don't remember comfort anymore. We don't remember what wool can do, what, you know, well-designed things and creating the right outfit with the right number of layers and things like that can do for us. And as knitters, this is something that we know a little bit more about, and we can create warm, comforting things for ourselves. And that's also a big part of what makes gift knitting so special, and what made this sweater so special is it wasn't just a way for them to share their culture with him, or to extend a remembrance of their friendship and sort of tie their two homes together and say, we're thinking of you. But it was also a way for this person who was steeped in a knitter's culture to kind of signal something about the knowledge and the wisdom that she had living in this very cold place. She knew the importance of comfort and warmth, and she gave him not just the gift of this sweater, but the gift of that knowledge. And so I've just been thinking about that lately, about how beautiful that story was, and that little tidbit of wisdom, and how that's something that we can spread to other people, not just giving them the things that we make, but sharing the knowledge that we have about fiber and about traditional crafts and all of that ancient wisdom that comes wrapped up in that, because we all should be comfortable and warm. This time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, depending on where you live, you might be quite uncomfortable for quite a long time. Some people really hate it. Some people don't like winter. I love winter, but I understand that this time of year can be hard for people. And sometimes just small little things like a hand knit pair of warm and woolly socks can be such a wonderful tool to combat that cold, dark, difficult, long time of the year. So that's what I've been thinking about lately. That's going to bring us to the end of this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed sitting and chatting with me for a little bit. I hope you're getting excited about the new Knit Along, the Land of Fiber, the Fiber Quest KAL, and also about the live stream. So make sure you do tune in on Saturday, December 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be the next time I pop up here, other than the rest of Vlogmas. And I really hope you can make it. If you can't, you can watch the video back later, so don't panic. But I would really, really like to see you there for the live recording, so that I can say hi to you. So I hope you will join me then. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you are enjoying Hanukkah right now if you celebrate it, and that you have a lovely Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. And I will see you just before the new year, and we can talk about all the fun stuff we're going to get up to in the new year. So stay warm out there, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give me the thumbs up if you haven't yet, to help other people find the video. And yeah, thanks so much. I will see you next time.